Hello scholars, welcome to virtual class. In this lesson, we shall be discussing about energy and human life, where we talk about the major source and forms of energy. We talk about the energy requirement of biological activities. We talk about metabolism and the two types of metabolism, which are anabolism and catabolism. And we shall also be looking at the first and second law of thermodynamics. So those are the things that we'll be looking at in this lesson. Now, to start with, what is now the introduction to energy? So what is the definition of energy? Energy is said to be the ability to do work. So every living organism, both plant and animals, they require a particular force that drives them to do what? To do any work. So that force is said to be what? Energy. So all living organisms need energy to enable them carry out what? Their life processes. And this energy that is being used to carry out life processes is obtained from what? From the food that organism eats. Now take for instance, if you don't eat, you won't have energy to perform any work. So the energy is not derived from what? From the food we eat. Out together. Then we now talk about this energy can either be what? In the kinetic energy or what? Or potential energy. So kinetic energy talks about what? Energy in what? In motion. Take for instance, you are walking, you require a particular amount of energy for what? For walking. And the second form of energy is what? The potential energy. That's what? Energy at position. For you to stand erect at a particular point, it requires what? A form of energy. Now we talk about the ultimate source of energy. When we talk about the ultimate source of energy, we talk about what? The overall source of what? Of energy, which is what? The sun. And plants uses the sun's energy to manufacture their food in a process known as photosynthesis. That's when we now talk about what? Autotrophic mode of nutrition, whereby plants they manufacture what? Their own food from which energy? Which is sun. So that tells us that the ultimate source of energy, whereby all other energy is being derived from, is what? The sun. So both the animal and plant, they depend on what? On sun as what? Their ultimate source of energy. Out together. Then we talk about the energy requirements of biological activities. The first one we talk about is what? Mechanical work. So this means that energy is used for the contraction of muscles during locomotion and in beating of cilia and what? And flagellum. Now take for instance, when there is muscle contraction and relaxation, the type of energy that is being required for that is what? Mechanical work. Why? Because when you contrast your muscle or when you relax your muscle, a kind of energy is being required during this process, and that energy is from what? From mechanical work. And the second one is what? The beating of cilia and what? And flagellum. Organism that use cilia for movement is what? Is paramecium. And flagellum for what? For climb abdominal. So when this cilia and flagellum, when they are being beaten for movement, mechanical work is what? Is being in place. The second energy requirement is what? Active transport. So this energy is used up in the form of what? Kinetic energy, that is in the process of what? Diffusion and osmosis. Remember when we talk about diffusion, that's what? The movement of ions from region of what? Higher concentration to region of what? lower concentration. While osmosis is what? The movement of water molecules from region of what? Higher concentration to what? To a lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So energy is now being required for movement of materials from higher concentration to what? To a lower concentration. So that energy is what? Active transport. The third one is what? Is heat production. So during heat production, energy transformation within the cell produces heat energy in muscle contraction, in which chemical energy is changed to what? To mechanical energy. Take for instance, when there is muscle contraction and relaxation, there is always a what? A release of heat. So this muscle contraction is gotten from what? From mechanical. So this mechanical work is now being converted to what? Is now being, it now releases out what? Heat. So energy transformation within the cell produces what? It produces heat energy. So during the contraction and relaxation of what? Of the muscles, heat is what? Heat is being produced. And the next biological requirement, energy requirement, is what? Is growth. Remember when we talk about the characteristics of what? Of living things, talk about what? Growth, which is what? An irreversible increase in size, mass, and complexity of organism. So for growth to occur in either plant or animal, or generally said in living organism, it requires what? Energy. So without energy being produced, organism will not grow as it is expected to grow. And this energy, remember I said that it is gotten from what? From the food that organism eats. So the food that they eat is now being converted to a form of energy which supports the growth and development of either plants or animals. Take for instance, without an organism taking any food, the organism will find it difficult to what? To grow. And even if the organism is derived of well-nourished food, it results into what? Into stunted growth. That tells us that what? Energy is required for what? For growth. Now we talk about what? Metabolism. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is the chemical reaction in the body cell that change food into what? Into energy. So there are a lot of chemical reactions that takes place in the what? In the cell of an organism. So what is the function of this chemical reaction? Is to change food, is to convert food into what? Into energy. And that energy is used to do what? Everything from moving to thinking and to what? To growing. Now we have two types of metabolism. We have anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is what? This is the building up process, and it can also be called constructive metabolism. And the second one is what? Is catabolism. This is what? The breaking down process, which can also be referred to as what? Destructive metabolism. And in catabolism, when larger molecules are broken down into what? Into simpler ones, it results into the what? Into the release of waste product of metabolism, which are released out from the skin, lungs. Now we talk about forms of energy. We have various forms of energy. Remember from the onset I said that we have what? Two forms, where we have the potential energy, which is energy at a fixed point, and we have what? Kinetic energy. We also have various forms of energy. We have what? The elastic potential energy. So that's when you stretch an object, so it results into what? A form of energy is being exerted, which is what we call what? Elastic potential energy. We have gravitational potential energy, we have stored energy, we have what? Chemical energy. So we have kinetic energy, and this is the energy of a what? Of a moving object. Take for instance, there is a particular amount of energy that is being exerted when you are walking. There is a particular amount of energy that is being exerted when you are running. So that energy is called what? Kinetic energy. We also have sound energy. When you talk, an energy is what? Is being released. When a phone vibrates, when a phone rings, an energy is what? Is being released. And we also have light energy. Take for instance, when you light a bulb and you put your hand close to the bulb, you see that there is an emission of what? Of energy. So that's what? Light energy. We also have heat or thermal energy. That is, this energy is released from what? From hot objects. And we also have what? Electric energy from electric currents or electrons. And also we now have the two major sources of energy. Upon all the forms of energy, they can now be categorized under what? Two sources. And the two sources are renewable energy and non-renewable energy. From the word renew, that is, it can be recycled, it can be regenerated. An example of renewable energy is solar energy, hydropower, geothermal, wind, and biomass. And the second type or the second source is what? The non-renewable energy. So when this energy are used up, it cannot be what? It cannot be renewed. Example is oil, coal, natural gas, and what? And nuclear. So those are the what? Those are the two source of what? Energy. Now we talk about what? The law of thermodynamics. So in the law of thermodynamics, it talks about what? Heat transfer. So the first law says that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but can be transformed from one form to another. Energy can what? Can neither be created nor destroyed, but can be transformed from one form to another. So energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed, but it can only move from one form to another. So that is the first law of what? Of thermodynamics. And the second law states that during the transformation of energy from one form to the other, energy is what? Energy is lost. So when chemical energy wants to be converted into what? Into heat energy, there is a particular amount, it may be small amount of what? Of energy will be lost to the what? To the environment. Now we've come to the end of the class. I hope you've learned a lot from this lesson. Till we see in our next class. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.